everyone, this is Chris with Overclockersclub. Today we've got the Monster 2 from Raidmax. This is a small mid-tower case. Got a lot of interesting little features on it. We'll go ahead and get it opened up here in just a moment. But if you're on a budget and you don't have a lot of money to spend on a case, this might be the case for you. We'll take a look at the exterior features of the case. First, the metal side panel here does have a plastic side window. It's not a full side window, and the Raidmax website does show that this case is available with a full clear side window. So you might look into that if you do want that, that feature. Now we look at the front here. We have a very heavy grooved front fascia, and we have two optical drive bays. The dummy plates here you can pop out, but they do blend in nicely with the front. Our symmetry is about the center line of the case here, so the bottom looks kind of like the top. We have these feet here that are integrated at the bottom. They're plastic. They give you about 1 3/4 inches of clearance. At the top here, these are almost like integrated handles. I don't know if that's the intention, but that's what they look like. So you might be careful trying to move around a fully loaded case just by these top pieces, but that is what they appear to be. We'll look at the other panel here. This is just one solid metal panel. We'll go ahead and pop this one off and take a look inside. First thing you notice is this large power supply cover. I see a lot of cases that are going to this to sort of cover up the power supply. Nice idea, but this one here is riveted in. It is not removable. A lot of them that I've seen are plastic, or they have a couple of screws. You pop the screws out and this thing will get out of the way, but this one is riveted in position, so what you see is what you get. Now the motherboard tray here, we have a nice generous cutout that allows access from the back for our CPU cooler installation. We have a 140mm front fan that is included. This is a blue LED fan. We have space for another fan, so you can go with 120mm fans, 2 of those, or 2 140mm fans. Again, one is included. Top here are the optical drive where you would mount those. Those seem to be going away. I see a lot more cases now that just don't even include these. They're sort of going the way of the old floppy drives. Now, also on the back here, we have another 140mm rear exhaust fan that is included. That is not an LED fan, that's just a standard fan. The back of the case, we have 7 expansion slots and then the cutout for the power supply. What I like about this is when you go to mount your graphics card or a sound card, you pop this little bracket out of the way and it makes the installation of those cards to your motherboard a little easier. Once you get those cards mounted, pop that down, tighten that thumb screw, and you're all set. So we'll go ahead and get the rear panel off and the front fascia off and see what's going on there. Alright, we got the front fascia removed, and it does just pop off. There are these little round tabs that just pop into the hole. So this comes off fairly easily, which allows access to the front. Of course, we have a very nice filter panel here for the front, and that pops right out and pops right back in. And then at the rear of the case, I forgot to show this earlier, but at the rear we do have a filter panel for the power supply, so that makes that very convenient to change, keep that clean, and keep the dust from being sucked in to your power supply. So you notice, we'll pull this off again here, we do have support for 2 140mm fans or 2 120mm fans, and you can get a 240mm radiator into this position here and have room for fans. So you do have support at the front for liquid cooling. We also have support at the top for the same thing. We have either 2 120mm or 2 140mm fans that can go in at the top there. And we'll pop the top off here in just a moment too. So we'll put this filter panel back in. And then we'll look at the back side here. The nice thing I like about this is we have 2 places right off the bat for our solid state drives. So you can pop this little bracket off, mount your solid state drive, and this attaches quite easily right there. So we have 2 positions for those. Here's the hardware box. We'll look at that here in a moment. This is your Molex connector for the front fan. I'm a little surprised to see Molex connectors. Everything's pretty much going to a SATA style power connector. And we do have positions down here. We have hard drive trays. 2 of them are removable, and you can actually mount a 3rd hard drive to the bottom here. So we have positions to mount 3 of your standard hard drives. We also have mounting holes here for more solid state drives. So we've got 3 more positions there. You can either do all solid state drives or a combination of solid state and regular drives. Now I like the cable management here. Your power supply goes in this area. You have some room here to hide your excess cables. If you don't have a modular power supply, you end up with a lot of extra cables. You got to stick them somewhere so you can't see them. And this is nice. You got a little bit of room here for that. We also have a little bit of an offset here on the back of the motherboard tray that allows room for your SATA cables for your hard drives and all of your power cables that go into your motherboard to sneak in from the back here and sort of keep them hidden. We also have our notches to supply our extra CPU power cables that can pop up through the top here. Alright, now if you want to gain access, there's a little filter panel up here. You just pop the top like that, and then this pops off, and there is a little magnetic strip around the perimeter of this filter panel here for the top. Now, you might think you can get a radiator up there, but there's just not enough room for a radiator at the top. You can get a couple of fans up there, a couple of 120s, a couple of 140s up there, but there really isn't enough room for fans and a radiator because the top of the motherboard will hit, you'll run into it, so there's just not enough room. Now another nice thing you can do, you can remove your optical drive bay here. You can remove this entire section, and you do have room for up to a 360 millimeter radiator if you want to go that route. But you can put a 240 or a 280 down here in the front again. I think we talked about that earlier. And we'll go ahead and get the case put back together, get the motherboard in it, and we can start doing some thermal testing. Alright, we got the case assembled. Got the motherboard in there. There's the Noctua D14 cooler. Looks right at home in the case. We got room around the cooler to get in there if we need to plug any fans in. Down at the bottom we got the nice blue LED fan. Again, there's some room up front there if you did want to put a front mounted radiator. And then the power supply cover there does a nice job of keeping all your wires hidden. All that wire clutter is out of the way and out of view. So we'll go ahead and put some thermal stressing on the case and take a look at it with the infrared camera and see what that looks like. So we look at the case here while we're testing the graphics card, and you can see there's not much heat really coming from the CPU cooler, which is expected. We get down here to the graphics card though, and you can see there's a fair amount of heat rolling off the back there. Of course it's under a full load while we do the graphics test, so that's no surprise. And then we see a little more heat. We got another hot spot down here on the power supply, again because it's dumping all of the power into the graphics card. The rest of the case though remains cool. Now we switch over to do the CPU testing, so we have it under a full load, overclocked, and you can see the bulk of the heat now is concentrated back here at the exhaust fan, where it tries to pull the heat out of the case away from the Noctua cooler. Of course, now that we have the CPU loaded, the GPU is not loaded, so you can see it's much cooler now. Not much going on there. And again, there's the power supply at the bottom. We do have a little bit of a load on it because it is now supplying the power to the CPU rather than the GPU as we saw in the previous video. The Monster 2 from Raidmax is really a nice little case. The thermal testing, there were no surprises there. The case did a decent job of exhausting the heat out the rear of the case, just like a lot of cases this size do. We have water cooling support in the front. We really don't have any in the top, but that's not a big deal. It does support a full-size ATX motherboard. And the nice thing about this case is it's stylish and you won't break the bank. Coming in at $59.99 retail, that leaves you plenty of money to concentrate on the rest of your build. So this is really a nice little case. Again, it's the Monster 2 from Raidmax. This is Chris with Overclockers Club, and thanks for watching.